Hello. Happy Monday, everybody. I am so excited that you're tuning in for another week of Carlie's Couch.
As you can see, we are leaning in on one mic if you're watching the video, which is why I was trying to tell you just do the whole beginning so I wouldn't have to hop all in like this. But but that's because it's a very special day and we have a very special guest. And we only have two mics now. So you're going to have to see us do up and on the same one. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I got a text this week that one of my friends from Oklahoma was in town, and so we wanted to make sure to get him on the podcast. Kian Taylor is a business mogul, the founder and owner of Kian Creative Studios and Facile Properties Real Estate Development out of Oklahoma. He is currently an editor on the Pívot Podcast, which is the #1 sports podcast on YouTube, and is directing the Oklahoma Black Cowboy documentary. He is a father of 3 and recently engaged to the love of his life. And all of his projects and energy is spent working to make sure that he lives his life to its fullest potential.
Right. It's like what comes.
We
after
have
that.
sound effects if we ever actually use them. Maybe one day. But thank you, Kian, for joining us today. That was a great intro, Carlie. Was it accurate though?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Okay.
That was great.
Mr. Mogul over here.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a very strong word.
It is, isn't it? It's a little.
Yo, when he sent it, I was like, yo, that has some gravitas attached to it. Like, all right, we gonna grow into that.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So Kian and I actually went to middle school and high school together. And his little sister. Shout out to Brittany. So this has been a long time. So we've known each other and seen each other like grow up essentially through a lot of stuff. So Kian, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? So you have this creative studios. Have you always been a creative, or is it something that you found out and decided to choose later?
No. This particular field that I work in, I never, went to school for film. I've honestly didn't even really have any type of desire to even do what I'm doing now. But, when I had got out of the Navy and was going to school at OU, that was whenever I had, just found a love for just, taking pictures and just, doing videos for other, brands and businesses, including my own at the time. And so this just grew into something to where I want to, be on the director side or filmmaking side to where I'm actually telling other people's stories through documentaries as well as working with other brands and business to build their content through social media and things like that. So
Would you say that you purposely kind of started getting into photography and into the arts, or was it something you just kind of stumbled on at that time?
Well, going back to my naval career, so I was an air crewman, and so part of my job was to do patrol and reconnaissance. So I had to take pictures while I was working for the Navy, but once I came out, I didn't.
And you got extra creative with it.
Yeah.
He was like, hold on, let me get that angle.
Right. It wasn't like, oh yeah, once I get out, this
Everybody
is what
else
I'm
was
gonna
like,
do.
click.
Right. And so, to answer your question, wasn't on purpose. No, but could we honestly say did I have the skills to easily cross over? Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that makes me think that a lot of times when it comes to folks in the arts, it seems like maybe they just never thought that would be something that they would want to grow up and be, right? Like as a kid, you maybe want to be a doctor or lawyer or whatever else. But it's really good to have been able to stumble into that, because otherwise, who knows if you would have even got into that at all.
Right.
And so it's interesting because I didn't never know about how you ended up getting into, being creative. Because last time I checked, you were an engineering student at OU. Right. Out of the Navy, you used to want to be a baseball player. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of all over the place. Which, not in a bad way, but
real, just multidimensional. Let's throw another strong word in there. It's definitely multidimensional. I'm not just one thing, and so all over the place? No, not necessarily. I think that all of those things are transparent in regards to what I'm doing today. Even when I did play baseball, even when I was, taking engineering at OU, I still use those disciplines today in my life at this particular moment.
Mm-hmm. Transferable skills, they always work. And look, I'm not one to talk about anybody, construction to yoga to whatever. So I love that you live in the breadth and depth and the width and everything of life. But my question is, you said that it wasn't really I just want to be a photographer. I just want to do this thing. you just wanted to help people tell stories and you were good at that. But what kind of made you leave engineering to do that? Or did you leave engineering to do that? Or when did it become your primary focus?
The exact time period, I remember I was taking a class at OU, my enterprise engineering class. And so we were talking about the process and systems of like the Toyota motor process or whatever, with how they are able to like do their assembly line or something along those lines. I remember I was sitting in class and I wanted to start a business because at that time, I'll be honest, like when I was at OU, I didn't really know what I wanted to do full time. I mean, even though I had aspirations to be an engineer, but truly that's not like something that I was like, oh yeah, like this is my purpose. I wake up every day dreaming about being an engineer. But at the time when I was looking into, my majoring, like when I went back to school, was just essentially figure out what it is I did want to do, but I knew it also made a lot of money. So that's why I did choose engineering. So going back to the class that I was in at the moment where I decided that I needed to not say what I needed, but where I found what I'm doing today is I wanted to just start a business. Like that was the main intent, was I just wanted to start a business. And so at that time I started a business. It was a clothing company. I don't know if you remember this. It was called Poppington Athletics. And so I started a fashion company, and while I was coming out with products, I wanted to be able to advertise and market on social media and take advantage of, this big media that was, essentially growing at the time. Investing in the camera, taking pictures of my own product. And while I was taking pictures and I was doing videos, people were like, man, you're actually good at this. And so I was like, well, shoot, I mean, if people are willing to pay for this, then let's see how far we can take it. And, the rest is history. I mean, this is where we're here now.
Around what time was that? Like what year?
This was 2016. Yeah.
Okay,
2016.
trying to put in perspective how much time it's been. I think it's always so interesting. You seem to me, as more of an outsider, that one of those folks who is like, you can be good at anything. Would you agree with that? Or not necessarily?
I mean, as time progressed, like anything that has to do with like learning a new skill, sure, yeah, absolutely. I do have that firm belief in myself. Like I can teach myself anything. Like I'm really good at, just mastering something I truly care about or that I really want to focus on. But as far as like if I want to go back and try to play baseball at the level of, shoot, I'm trying to think who's the best right now. It's like a Jose, Altuve right now. Like to play at that level right now at 34. I feel like I lost a lot of time here to do that, to have that type of physical skill, if that makes sense.
So what I'm hearing you say though, I heard a couple of things that you really were like putting in work around whatever you were at in a certain stage, you were putting work into it. And then I heard you say the word master, which is kind of what we really want to hone in on right now is, hey, you might not just naturally be amazing at everything, but you can recognize what you care about. And then it sounds like you made a decision to master that. And or correct me, you might not have been trying to master it, but just like, I just want to be good at this to get my clothing line going, or, okay, I'm getting opportunities, so I should do better and better. Talk about what motivates that desire to master.
Wow. I never really thought about that. Like as far as like what the actual, what the motivation is. Because essentially like for me, like I'm someone that's just forever, like I feel like I'm always learning. Like I'm always having like a growing mindset. And so like what you just said is in regards, like when did you decide? Honestly, like I think it was actually recently, truthfully. Like, even though I've been doing this for the last 6 years, and I was talking to my sister about this literally yesterday, about the common denominator amongst, like, the greats, like people like Kobe Bryant, for example. Every last one of those individuals just made a decision. That was it. Like, they said at a certain age or a certain time period, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to dedicate every minute, every moment of my life towards that. See what I'm saying? And so, like, essentially for me, whenever, and we laughed about it, and as far as like being so many different things, and when I was playing baseball, I know that I wasn't truly putting it, like I was talented. I was definitely able to go to the next level, but as far as like putting the same type of like Kobe Bryant mentalities to the game, I didn't have that. And so now that, with thank God for the information age and social media, to be able to go in and see some of our favorite, individuals or, athletes and, thinkers or whatever, that was like, well, you know what? Maybe I do need to raise the standard of what it is that I want to pursue. And so with filmmaking, I feel like this is like me using all the like skills and the things that I've learned over the years, and like now I can officially like apply it and do it differently at a whole nother level than, not saying that I wasn't able to do, but like with the what word am I looking for? I guess a different type of like perspective whenever it comes to like, I want to really master this and just be great at this. So.
I like that you kind of made note to the fact that you just decided, or you just kind of made that commitment intentionally. Because one thing that I feel like we see a lot of nowadays, especially because of social, is like everybody comes out the gate being like, I'm a master photographer, and I'll be feeling like, dang, like I don't want to be a hater, but like I know lighting, I know enough of this from working with my team and everything that's going on, and it's like, yeah, like this isn't always that awesome when everybody's like putting up their photos and everybody's hyping it up, and it's like, okay, but where's the real like work under your belt, or where's the actual like, as Carlie likes to say, like the fruit of those efforts, as far as having the opportunities to be at shows or do certain events, et cetera, et cetera. So I like that you brought that up, and that makes me think that like real mastery isn't something that you necessarily like are putting that label on it. I feel like that comes from when you're getting all these other opportunities from outside, is that other people recognizing, but that it is important that you do have to define that in order to say, okay, now what am I going to do to continue this, or to live up to that, or to move forward with it? So what would you say are the things that you're doing now that you made that decision to really be like, okay, this is my journey of mastery from here out?
Okay. So I'm going to go back. So legacy is important to me. That is another motivating factor behind why I am able to have vision in regards to quote unquote mastery. Because mastery, isn't just within your respective career or your creative field or whatever you want to call it. I think just as a human being, like for me, like I want to be able to, live out to my fullest potential physically, mentally, spiritually, on all levels. Because if I'm able to do that, if I'm able to master myself in that particular area, which is harder than mastering that camera, to me personally. And so if I can do that, then everything else is easy. And so that standard for me, that's in fatherhood, that's in manhood, that's in like business. Like that standard is, and I set that. It's not based on what like the external world, because everybody essentially has their own journey, they have their own walk. But that standard for me is just, it's based off of things that I have seen and that I have experienced, that I know, okay, cool, right? Like let's try to push it further than what I've seen before.
I love that, and I love the holistic. Of course, I do. I love the idea of mastery being a holistic thing. You really have to master yourself before you can master other things. Like we already talked about Kobe, but he really was a master of himself. Like he knew himself mentally, physically, emotionally, was in control, had discipline, all of those things. You said that you feel like you just kind of got to that level. Were there any like life changes, or what were the life changes? Some of them that helped you get to that place where this mindset opened up for you.
Gosh, these are very deep questions. I would say within the last 2 years, I've been putting in this work since I was 23, 24 years old. And what I mean by work, as far as like self-development, I was living overseas, traveling around the world, and was going to these different countries, and I was able to recognize the difference between, things that I have learned living here in America, right? And so what's going on, what I'm doing today is an accumulation of things that I've read, that I've listened to over the last 12, 13 years. And so, essentially, as far as like, when did it finally click? To me, I think it's just whenever I'm going to use one, for example, right? I do therapy, right? So I do therapy every Friday. So I'm a big mental health advocate, right? So for me, like I've came to a place whenever I have like any type of malice towards like an individual, right? So I try to understand like that person's like perspective, like why would they do that, versus like, all right, cool. Like this is like I'm just reacting to who they are. You know what I'm saying? So essentially for me, I just feel like that's the best thing that I need as far as to help me continue. So like I said, to keep that growth mindset like today and moving forward.
You have a family. You're focused on a holistic view of your health, etc. How do you maintain mastery and not get sucked into being focused on work?
I want to be the best at everything that I do. And so in regards to like having that balance, it's not that it can't be done. Like in my mind, I don't believe that it can't be done. Like I do believe that I can still be a great father. I still believe I can be a great husband as well as be a great business owner, while also being able to be there for all these different people. And so in order to balance that, like I still have to be 100% with myself first, in order to be able to balance all those different things. So if that answers your question correctly.
Oh, go ahead. No, you got it. Mine's unrelated to it.
Well, I was going to say, it seems like this conversation is, for me, is kind of coming down to like, okay, you can master a craft. And I think that people can master work, because we know a lot of assholes who are like really good at what they do and they might not necessarily be a great person. So I think you could do that. Mm-hmm. But how much more is there to the fact of like self-mastery, which really does mean like you have to have getting all the things in order and you're being like a better person as you're also mastering your craft. Like I feel like that's really important, and I like that the conversation came to that. This is a statement, not even really a question, but I like that the conversation came to that, because that's really kind of what our podcast is about. It's just like kind of always comes back to yourself, mastering yourself, and really understanding like what do you care about. So it seems like even with the mastery of your craft, that is still fueled by legacy you've mentioned, your family, and the person that you want to be.
And yeah, that's literally why we started the couch. So we're happy y'all are still here. And I love conversations like this, because it just shows like no matter kind of where you start, it's that work that you do on yourself that always leads you, forward, and it all works together. If you just water in like one side, it doesn't work. Something practical in the terms of like self-taught, because you've taught yourself, or it seems you've taught yourself a lot of skills like video, photography, building a business, websites, like all of the stuff that you do for other people as well. Do you have any thoughts around like working smarter and not harder, like things that you changed in your routine of being a self-taught entrepreneur and photographer and videographer that like really helped you push it towards mastery and level up?
Managing time. I used to be super lazy when it comes to like, I'll just wake up at whatever time and just get it done, or I'll wait to the last minute on things. I was a big procrastinator. And so what I've learned is that, all right, I have to be able to control that a little bit better as far as like where I direct my attention, where I direct my focus at, and to where it allows me to get the best performance out of whatever I do, especially whenever it comes to like filmmaking, because that stuff takes time. Like we were talking about earlier, like this editing, like it's not easy. It looks easy on social media, but it's not, and it's time consuming. But you also want to make sure that you're giving your most like your best quality anytime that at least for me, like I try to put out the best quality for any project that I put out. And so if I'm not managing my time well, then I'm not going to be able to perform to the highest level. So I would say time.
Talk about what your journey has been in coming across, receiving, getting, whatever it might be, the opportunities that you have that do put you into perhaps more spotlight or open up even more doors. Do you feel that it's something you've gone after, or that your work just spoke for itself, or how would you talk about that?
We were just talking about this. So I know that I am good at what I do. However, I haven't really fully embraced where I'm at right now. And what I mean by that is that I'm not super aggressive, and like I don't try to sell people my work. I just post it and like let it do what it does. Or like I might, send out a lead to someone and just like, okay, cool. If they hire me, they hire me. If they don't, they don't. And so I just kind of let the work speak for itself more than anything. versus like me trying to, oversell people or me trying to look like the expert. I see a lot of people on YouTube that are really good content creators, but then in the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, how do you even have time to do all this whenever like editing takes so long? And then, if you're doing all these things that you're talking about on YouTube, like how do you even have time for that? Especially knowing the type of work that I do. And to me, amongst you ask, other people, like I've been in rooms where there's people that I was like, fanboying over, that like does amazing creative work. And then we're in the same rooms and I meet them. I'm just like, dude, I'm in this, like, I guess like a moment where it's like, Kian, like you're supposed to be here. It's like a moment of truth, right? It's like, you're supposed to be here. And in those moments is where I realize is like that, like, there's just a lot of like, like a facade in regards of like, what's really the right way to go about being like that expert looking, YouTube person or content creator. So
then my follow-up to that is, is that something you feel like you want to get over? Because we had an episode about this, about kind of like, was it? Being your own, being your own biggest champion. And we were talking about how like artist friends of ours, how it's like, they don't want to be that person. And a lot of times we don't want to be that person who's like trying to talk about what we're doing and open yourself up for sales, etc. But is that something you feel like you should or want to do more of, or are you okay with the way that it's going now?
So, golly, like
sometimes it's just uncomfortable, but like,
yeah.
I once I found your Instagram, because Carlie sent me your Instagram, because I was like, well, if we talking to somebody who's a master of video, I was like, let me see the content. And I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, this is fire. But then do you have your reels and you be sending that out, or like, you hop on LinkedIn? I'm gonna send you some notes after this, because you making people have to find you.
Yeah. So from a business aspect, could it be better? Absolutely. But that's where I say it's like I come from like I said, just put the work in, like just do the process, like not necessarily focus on like trying to like sell everybody, because the right people will come around, and that's honestly what's happened. Like I've been very blessed to just be myself, create content, and then magically I'm working with the Pívot Podcast around some great people.
Yeah.
And so our team is amazing, and myself, like I fit in, we gel perfectly, and that's kind of been my motto. Like I don't have to force anything. I just, like I said, just work and the right people come around me, and that's that.
I feel you, and I agree with you that when the things do happen, they tend to feel more aligned, and you're in this place. And for sure, I do agree with you that even, if like for everybody, our business part and sales, all that, we could be doing more. But just the fact that you still are making sure that you putting together good content or good product is number one. That makes the most sense, instead of letting that like kind of fall to the wayside.
Right. And I'll add to that too as well. Like, so with the Black Cowboy film, like that's where now I'm evolving to where I'm pushing myself into a new role. So I'm still at a point to where like, yes, I know that I'm good at what I do, but I still have to establish myself in the market as like, okay, this guy is more than just a videographer that just picks up a camera and goes out and films, random stuff with people. Because we see a ton of freelancers out there. And so I have to now move on. Like I'm at the threshold to where, all right, can we start, for example, this Black Cowboy documentary, hopefully we want it to be super successful, right? And so it does very well. And then now can we start putting them in the conversations of like other people that have done unscripted documentaries that have been successful? Can we start throwing his name in there? And also too, with the market of Oklahoma, like the filmmaking market in Oklahoma growing right now, like I have to establish myself as a person when if somebody does come down for like a bigger budget, like, hey, Kian's the guy to go to. So that's where like, it's in my field, I feel like you're always, well, and can't speak for everyone, but for myself, like you're all like, I'm always constantly looking for how can I make this the best product possible, but also too, like knowing like, all right, if I really wanted to turn up and like put out some dope stuff, I can always do that too. So.
And it sounds like you want to make sure everything you do is the best next step, which is important too. So not necessarily thinking like too far ahead and trying to get ahead of yourself, but what am I doing now that will get me in the next room that I want to be in?
For sure.
In this, do you have a guiding star? Like, not too far ahead, but something that you're working towards that, like, keeps you in line with all of, your creative energy?
When you say guiding star, what do you mean? Like, do I have like a vision of myself? Yeah, I'm doing it. Just like I said, moving into like the role of being a director, moving into the role of someone that can tell stories for a longer period of time than 60 seconds on social media. So yeah, I'm actively doing that now.
Do you have any desire, or do you already do any activities where that involves either kind of being an example / mentoring, but also you're a dad, so like this is your life probably, but working with some other folks to like kind of let them be exposed to this field?
Like me as a mentor, there are individuals that have reached out to me, and I haven't taken on like a group of people or individuals to be like, all right, come shout on me. Not yet. And I'm not saying that I never would though, so if anybody was to say, hey, Kian, like I would love to come with you on this project. Absolutely.
I think I thought about that because I feel like a lot of times when you think about like somebody being a master, it's like there's people who are also looking to them and looking to them as like an example, whether it's like a legit thing that y'all have put together or if they're just following you maybe. So I think that's partly like seems like an important thing of mastering your craft is also like access to other people to kind of just at least see what you're doing too.
Of course.
So you can think of your own, I don't want to call it marketing, but you could think of your own content also as being helpful and just being exposure to other folks.
So this is actually a question from another German person. So shout out to Sarah. I had lunch with her and her husband. They were down here visiting, and her husband is kind of looking to change his career, but he doesn't really know what he wants to do yet. He chased it because it was his passion, and he got it, and he was like, okay, this is not really it. What are your thoughts, or do you have any advice for someone who is maybe looking to switch into their passion or to try to find something else, or maybe just completely switch a direction that they're going?
I would say embrace the discomfort of learning something new. And what I mean by that is that you're doing something that you've never done before, right? And so stay true to what you believe in regards to like the vision that you have for yourself in regards of like, okay, like this is what I'm making a decision to do. So it's not going to be easy. It's definitely going to come with, times where you want to give up or you have doubts on, about your new skill or a new craft that you're trying to learn, but just keep pushing through and just embrace the discomfort, and just keep going.
This is my last question to you, and it's for the benefit of the listeners because I feel like they've heard a lot about your journey and a little bit about like purpose, why, and being driven in that way. But do you have any tactical or like takeaway type steps or practices for folks who have a particular skill that they are mastering? Is there anything that you can give folks on ways to facilitate that or to continue to get better at a skill?
Keep your health in check. Relax when you need to. Don't burn yourself out. Communicate. If you have a clientele, definitely do those things. And for sure, and it sounds bad, but put yourself first. Like you can't take care of anybody else unless you take care of yourself first. And that's my model for anything.
I agree with that. I think it's so funny that I asked, like, how do you get better at a skill? And all of your responses were around things you can do to control yourself and to keep yourself in a space. Because to your point, I think that's something probably a lot of people, like, we kind of let fall to the wayside, or like we don't think about our health as much. And we're like, if you're eating McDonald's every day and you might be great at what you do, but you might start, dealing with other issues and things. And so how can you be great if you're not taking care of yourself? So that sounds perfectly in line with the types of things that we talk about. Is like, first take care of yourself, and then everything you're doing, you're going to be able to do much better.
For all the parents that listen, how do you put yourself first? Like, I mean, I know you said you do therapy, which is great, awesome, weekly, but what does that tactically look like for you, like a weekly, maybe like outline or daily, like little routine that you have? Because I know a lot of times it's like, well, I don't have time to do that. And I don't even have kids, and sometimes I feel like I don't have time for stuff. So what does that tactically look like?
So for me, going back to time, I try to get up before everybody wakes up. So the first thing I do is I always go to the gym. I always work out, and then I make it back in time to where, like, while my wife and while my son are getting ready to head out and start their day, I try to make sure I'm there for that. At least be present for it and help out wherever I can. And then whenever she does go to work, during that time period is my time when I work. In the mornings is my time where I read books, and I'll just kind of have some time before I actually start my work, and then once I do start my work, I try to get as much done as I can until, they get off work. And then once she does come home, I try to help out with the house. And then whenever everybody goes to bed, I get back to work if I have to. If not, I just go to bed.
That sounds a lot like Kobe's schedule.
It's doable. And it just goes back to like what's important to you. And, family's important to me, legacy's important to me, business is important. Obviously, self-care is important to me. So, being able to manage your time to me is the most important thing.
Yeah. I am so excited that you were able to join us. Very excited about the podcast that you're a part of. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that or the documentary? During our shout out, we always give people space to talk about what they're working on, how people can connect with you and support you and your business.
Okay. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Kian Creative Studios. Documentary, Writing Legacy. We do have a title for it. It's called Writing Legacy. It will be out in February 2023. Where we're going to release it, we're still working that part out because we have to follow certain guidelines in regards of getting it on streaming platforms and if we want to take it to festivals and things like that. But follow the page and all that information will be there. And I appreciate y'all for having me on the show.
The last thing we do for every episode is we ask a question of the week. So I guess we have to start with Kian, huh? I'll ask this to you first. If you could change your relationship with any family member, would you? And if so, with whom? Our live audience is looking down.
Wow. Lexi, we need to talk about these questions.
You can say something different.
I'm messing
That's
with you.
Carlie. That's
No,
Carlie.
that was me. Yeah.
Oh, that was a Carlie question.
That's a Carlie question.
I'm going to say no.
You could change it. Okay. Yeah, I would say if I could change my relationship with a family member, I would improve, probably equally, I would improve my relationship with my parents because, it's one of those, everything's great, but also I don't have the kind of parents, and I didn't even see people doing this until, recently with my friend group, they actually, call their parents every day and talk about it, and they know every little thing going on. For me, it's I don't even really talk about my work like that because I'm just, y'all don't know what's going on, or I don't call them about every guy or every friend and things like that. That part is not necessarily what's the issue, but I think that there's more room to show them more of who I really am, because I think, sometimes you're kind of in a time capsule of when I go home or when I hang out with them, oh, I'm the kid, they're the parents, and whatever y'all say, cool. Even though I'm 37 years old. So that's something that I would do is how can I challenge myself to break through even more that discomfort or conflict, if that's what that means, to show my parents more of who I really am.
Great answer. Mine is my dad. We're just not very close. I met him when I was 23, which was 10 years. So I've known him for 10 years. And we've had some great talks and stuff, but just not very consistent. And so I would like to get to know him a little bit more as a person. But yeah, so big shout out to Kian for joining us. We're so happy to have you here. Oklahoma in the house. JK.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hold on, what's wrong with Oklahoma? Let's talk about this.
Oh, okay.
Let's go. Yeah, let's talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah, let's
You'll
go.
love it. If you're into just doing basic stuff, sure.
Yeah, that's
Like,
light work
like
for me.
yeah, if you're one, like if
wait
you
to go back
like
home right now and
like
watch
I was
24.
like the pro about that. If you need a break from this out here in LA, Oklahoma's the perfect spot for that.
In that the oxygen feels a little bit cleaner out there than it does here. I just every time I get off the plane, I'm like, okay. But yeah, we should go sometime and do a little maybe a Bouch episode there. But y'all follow Kian at Kian Creative Studios on social media. Go support his work. Get excited for this documentary that's dropping, and we'll see y'all next week.